WRC 9 is the official racing game of the 2020 World Rally Championship and releases on the Nintendo Switch this week. It promises greater realism, redesigned environments, all new pace notes as well as 3 new rallies to reflect the 2020 calendar. But does it cross the finish line or end up stuck in a ditch? You haven't seen my driving yet. I'm Glen Bolger, thank you to the publishing team for the review code, and now let's find out. The game begins with a quick tutorial showing you the basic controls before putting you onto a stage of one of the rallies to see how you get on. You make your way from point to point, listening to the information given to you by your co-driver in order to successfully navigate the turns, attempting to get to the next stage as quickly as possible. Any faults will result in a timed penalty. After that first race, it will make recommendations for assists you should have on, although you can choose to ignore this advice, and the full list of assists can be accessed at any time from the settings menu if you feel you need to change anything. In terms of the gameplay modes, you have quick play, career, season, the new clubs mode, as well as training and test area modes, and finally a challenge mode. Quick play allows you to choose any stage from a rally, configure weather conditions and go for your best time. You can choose vehicles from the WRC, WRC 2 and 3, Junior WRC or even 15 classic cars from the sport's past. Training lets you choose a closed training course and compete for high scores, whereas test area allows you to change aspects of your car in real time, such as tyre type, to see what effect this has on performance. Challenge mode gives you a predetermined car, tasks you with completing an objective and then awards you points for gold, silver or bronze finishes as per your time. The more points you earn, the more challenges you can then unlock, with 50 available in total. New to this iteration is the club system, which sees you able to create a championship of your own and then post it online for people to attempt, log in their times in the process. You choose which rallies to add, the car categories allowed, and then set a time for when the event will launch. I couldn't test this properly for review. I did create an event but there was no one to take part, but it does sound like an intriguing idea. It will be interesting to see how this plays out once the game launches. Then there is the career mode, one of the biggest modes in the game. This sees you not only take on the role of driver but also the manager, beginning in the Junior WRC and working your way up through the ranks. You will be scheduling events and success in these will bring you money as well as experience points to help raise your level and team morale. Money can be used to cover damage costs or pay the salaries of crew members, as well as allowing you to enter more events. Any experience points you gain will go towards your overall level, and every time you do increase this level you get yourself a research and development point. R&D is split into a number of branches that will open up as you play, and putting points into particular areas will give you the opportunity to improve your team further, such as being able to hire a meteorologist early on who will in turn allow for more accurate weather predictions, helping you to choose appropriate tyres and race strategies for the rallies. The events that you participate in include manufacturer tryouts looking to boost your reputation and gain contracts, extreme condition events where you are in control of a damaged car in challenging weather conditions, or classic car challenges, which are great. I really do love it when sports games include classic cars, players or teams. You also have of course the rally events themselves. Short and medium term objectives as well as season objectives once you hit the WRC proper all give you something to strive towards and again offer the incentive of gaining monetary and morale bonuses, plus of course more XP. Your reputation with the manufacturer will also be closely monitored. If it falls too low, you run the risk of being dropped. If you like the sound of attempting a season but you do not want the responsibility of management, you can instead pick season mode. This allows you to focus purely on the driving as you attempt to navigate the twists and turns of the rally circuits. Again, you can start in the Junior WRC or begin at WRC 3 level and go from there. Times from each section are calculated into an overall leaderboard, and there are a few different stages to go through for each rally. You can repair your car between stages for a price, as well as choosing which tyres you'll need, etc. So there is still a small amount of micromanagement, but nowhere near the extent found in career mode. Now I did hear that the PS4 and Xbox One versions, which launched late last year, included split screen multiplayer, which isn't included in the Switch version. I don't know how essential people will find this in a point-to-point rally race, but if you are pondering which version of the game to buy, this may well sway your decision, so just keep it in mind. When it comes to the controls, well, ZR is your acceleration, ZL is to brake, and the A button is your handbrake. Now obviously the Switch controllers do not have analog shoulder buttons as standard, and I know this will be a deal breaker for some people when it comes to a racing game, but if you are happy to look past this, then the controls themselves are very responsive. Turning perhaps feels a little oversensitive to begin with, but to be fair, this is more a point of having to get used to it than it being an actual issue. Of course, this is a more realistic racer, the learning curve is high and you will need to get the technique down pat in order to make good progress. Having said that though, there are the assists that I mentioned earlier which allow you to customise the experience, making it more manageable and accessible if you are struggling. You can choose to turn on ABS, traction control, prevent yourself from crossing the start line too early, which does incur a penalty, or turning off vehicle damage. Gameplay is in-depth and challenging but offers a number of assists to help the uninitiated join the party. Now I find rally games incredibly difficult as my eyesight isn't great, so seeing turns is an issue and my brain doesn't seem to decode my co-driver's messages quickly enough for me to react. But I have to say I still really enjoyed trying to do a bit better each time in this game. It scores 18 out of 20. Control certainly takes some getting used to, but it is definitely rewarding when you do begin to get the hang of it, and they score 17 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, WRC 9 is definitely an improvement on WRC 8's Switch offering. I remember Mark reviewing this one for us with some assistance from one of our good friends and writers, Jace, and they both reported a sheen, for want of a better phrase, to the graphics that just detracted from the overall viewing experience. This isn't the case this time round, and the car in particular looks much better. There's great variety in the various settings as you jet set around the world, and a very nice use of detail on the panoramic backgrounds, which creates a good sense of depth. The weather conditions are shown well, and I love the little effects such as dust and gravel kicking up as you screech to a halt or perform a handbrake turn. Things are certainly not perfect though, as the mid-range draw distance is poor, with trees and roadside barriers popping in frequently. Because you are twisting and turning through environments in a rally game more than in a traditional racer where you kind of just fly past the scenery, it can be very noticeable, and the sudden appearance of snow on a tree in Sweden, or of entire trees as you make your way through Sardinia, does detract from otherwise very scenic stages. To be fair though, as much as I have to report all of this, I was so wrapped up in listening to my co-driver and trying to memorise turns etc, I can't say it ever really hampered my personal enjoyment too much. The shadow resolution of the car itself is low, and again this does stand out against the environment, plus textures for objects like rocks are of a poor quality, but again, unless you are crashing into them, something I did do a lot to be fair, you won't really notice it. In terms of performance, the game runs at a very consistent 30 frames per second, and I never had any issues with crashes, glitches or bugs at all. In handheld mode, graphical fidelity does take a further hit as you would expect. You'll see shadows form as you've almost passed the object projecting them, and you'll also have to deal with more popping. A big chunk of my time played with the game was in handheld mode, and again it never affected the gameplay for me at all. If it does bother you though, or you have a Switch Lite, it is definitely something to bear in mind. Audio wise, music is fairly subtle through the game, used mainly in menus, but it does support when it needs to, and is never overbearing. Other than this, the main parts of note are of course the voice of your co-driver, as they call out the pace notes, and the sound of the car itself. Co-drivers' languages can be changed in the option menu, and just on the subject of co-drivers, there is also a colourblind mode available where you can change the pace note icon colourings. The cars have an appropriate feeling of power owing in part down to the sound of the engine, although it would have been nice if the different terrain were reflected more with the sound made as you drive over them. It is present, but perhaps just not as pronounced as it could have been. With visuals, it's a case of the whole being more than the sum of its parts. Popping is definitely an issue and it will bother some people more than others, but I still felt the environments look good on the whole, and they get 14 out of 20. Audio is understated in terms of the music, but the co-driver and engine sounds do exactly what they need to do, and it scores 15 out of 20. WRC 9 costs £44.99 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. For this price you get the career mode, which, if it grabs rally fans in the same way that Football Manager grabs me, this will consume a vast amount of said people's time. There is a season mode, which was my personal favourite mode, plus challenges and online leaderboards. There are the official locations from the 2020 season, as well as the licensed cars and crews from WRC 2 and 3, Junior, as well as bonus and legend vehicles. Fans will no doubt get their money's worth, and there is a physical version available that I've seen advertised on online retailer websites for around £37. On balance, value gets 16 out of 20. To conclude, WRC 9 offers an authentic rally experience, and it comes across to the Switch with pretty much everything intact. As far as I know, the only missing feature is that multiplayer, and personally I always found rally games to be more of a single player experience, and as single player experiences go, this is a very good one. Yes, the graphics take a hit, although most of it, bar the popping, will probably pass you by as you race along, and the price may be high for all but hardcore fans, and if that's your issue it might be worth keeping an eye out for that physical copy. Either way, in terms of what it sets out to do, it manoeuvres those tight turns brilliantly.
Left 3, don't cut.
WRC 9 gets a SwitchUp score of 80%. Thank you everybody for watching, I hope you enjoyed that review. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe, and until next time, happy gaming.
Into right 4, into left 4, tightens. Into right 4, into left 3. Into right 4 tightens and left 3. Into right 3 cut and left 3. Into right 4 tightens and left 3. And left 5 short, into right 5 short, into left 4 tightens. Into right 5 and left 4 tightens. And right 4